Welcome back to Off Record On Point, the workplace culture podcast with that all-important twist. I'm Julia Linehan, founder and CEO of The Digital Voice.
And I'm Kasey Long. Today, we're joined by Jay Richards, speaker, entrepreneur, and CEO at Imagen Insights, who is on a mission to bridge the communication gap between brands and the influential Gen Z demographic. Here's a sneak peek at what's coming up.
If you want a successful campaign, this is the makeup, this is the ingredient, these are the elements that are needed. According to Jay, what the fuck are they?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just do your research. Before you do anything at all, just whether it's a tool like ours or via your comments or via your DMs, just ask people, hey, we're thinking of doing da-da-da-da-da. What do you think?
Ask first. Okay.
The challenge with most folk is we make decisions without being informed, but I like to get as much data as possible from our community, from folks that I talk to, so that when I say something, it's informed by that wider thought process as well as my thoughts as well.
I think it's not a bad thing. We're always saying, show me the data, listen to the data, let it be your guide.
I was then able to go to my CTO and he was like, okay, I can get it built in 6 weeks. I was like, great, you've got 4.
Wow.
So then he built it and it was amazing. And now it's just really taken off for us. I think it's been really key. So being able to make that pivot and having Kat and the team around to be able to go, actually, this is the direction I think we should go in and help with that it has been great.
See, where would any of us be without founders like you guys that are like, we're just going to do it.
It'll be fine.
We'll figure it out. What's the worst that can happen?
Today's episode is all about the voice of the next generation, where Jay will be talking Gen Z, entrepreneurship, brands making mistakes, and how to listen to your consumers. What's in store for us, Julia?
Well, I thought it might be worth starting with some facts about Gen Z and who they are. What's interesting is they're the first generation of digital natives. They've never known a world without the internet. This, as well as the fact that, of course, they had to deal with a worldwide pandemic, the cost of living crisis to contend with during their early years. This makes them a really fascinating and unique audience. And let's think about where their age bracket is really those that were born between the mid-1990s and early 2000s, which means they're not actually as young as people think. And a lot of them are climbing up the corporate ladder, having kids, buying houses, etc. What we do know is they're shaping culture through social media, with 86% of Gen Z bringing up social media in offline conversations. I know this myself because I've got 2 Gen Zers as children for myself, and they are fully absorbed in social. Needless to say, Gen Z are definitely shaping the future and the future of digital advertising. So I'm really excited to hear from our expert, Jay, on understanding how Gen Z tick and a ton more interesting stuff. So Jay Richards, welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Also, that was like the best intro I've ever heard on any podcast. Like normally it's like,
wow.
Yes, that was so good. It was so professional. But I was like, all right, okay, guys, okay, it's good. I'm excited.
And then it all goes downhill from here. Yeah. Jay, we're going to start. Let's put you on the spot. You've got to, in 1 minute or less, if you can, introduce yourself, what you do, and how you got there. Love this task.
Okay, 1 minute or less. So my name is Jay Richards, CEO of Imagen Insights. We have 37,000 Gen Z in 111 countries around the world. And our clients like Amazon, Apple, Google, and Nike crowdsource qualitative insight from our community within a matter of minutes.
Wow, that might be record-setting. Our fastest yet.
Producer Ren is clapping. You got a round of applause then. Jay, that's perfect. That's a really strong intro.
Amazing. Well, Jay, one of my questions was, because we've had loads of different founders on Off Record On Point, all wonderful, but we've never asked any of them what it's actually like setting up your own company. How did you get started with Imagen Insights and get it off the ground?
Yeah, really good question. So in short, I was working as a consultant in the City of London. I wanted to invest in kids that grew up in my area, which is Stratford and East London and in the borough. So I started investing, just taking my own personal money and investing it into kids that grew up in my area, went to local schools in my area. And while I was doing this, I amassed a network of really intelligent young people that were doing great things. So those young people, I had them part of my network, and Facebook heard I was doing this, invited me to speak at a conference for them. And when I went and spoke at this conference, my only caveat was I wanted to bring 20 of these kids with me. So I brought 20 of these kids from a school in Tower Hamlets. They came along, and when they came along to the session, they were like locusts, just eating all the food and just living their best lives.
Oh.
But the head of retail from the NFL was in the audience. So she came up to me afterwards and she hears me do this talk and she hears me speak about the importance of Gen Z and what they were doing. And she said to me, is there any chance they could help us to create a marketing campaign? So I took her for dinner in the evening. And what it turned out, the crux of her problem was she couldn't get qualitative insight at scale. So I went home that evening, being who I was, and was like, actually, you know what? I think there must be a way of doing this. Couldn't find a company that was doing it. Pitched to her the next morning. Said, okay, how much did you pay me to get access to these people? She told me £30,000. I quit my job 6 weeks later, and then we are where we are, like 5 years later.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do you know what's so interesting is that most people who set up a company should start with, there is a challenge, there is a problem that needs solving, and so many don't. Knowing what you know now, though, would you go back in time and do it all again? And would you do it differently?
100% I would do it all again. And the big thing I would do differently, I would hire much slower. And to Kat, my co-founder, we had an amazing year financially in 2021. And what happened off the top of that was specifically led by me. I was like, we need to invest in people. We hired a whole bunch of people. We hired really, really quickly. In like a 3-month period, we had a massive amount of people. And then 6-7 months later, we realized quickly we didn't actually need them because we were moving to much more of a technology play.
Yeah.
But then we had all these people and they were amazing. They were part of the team, but it was costing so
Too
much.
much.
It wasn't that they weren't great. It was that I personally had made a decision and I made a call and led the charge on that. And Kat and the team were great, just listening and being like, hey, okay, we think we made an error here. And then we cut the team down. Everybody was able, we got them all jobs and they all moved on to great roles.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because of the technology we built, we just didn't need the people.
Yeah.
And I'd made that error in going, actually, I wanted to be able to have this conversation because how many staff do you have? I wanted to be able to say, I have a large number of staff. But now in hindsight, I realized that was just an ego thing. That was just a pride thing. And now actually we've got a really great core team. We don't need a massive amount of people. Yeah, we're amazingly lean and the technology does all the hard work and we're extremely profitable now, which is great.
I was going to say that sounds like a really important lesson to know where to leverage technology to simplify things. And then when you do need the human, those people, those core people in there with you.
I must admit, and you know this, Kasey, I was myself on my own for 7 years before I even brought on Adam and then Kasey, and then it went big, and the last and went to 35, but we've been going 12 years, and that's only been in the last 4 or 5 years. And I would say you're bang on the money there.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady, don't rush it. Love it.
For sure, 100%. And I think the thing now is we can just build from an amazing place of being in control. Because before I felt like Kat and I were just holding onto a train and it was going far too fast and I didn't know how to get it under control. And now we're in complete control. We're building exactly as we want to and we can hire very slowly and make all the smart decisions. Which is great.
In the driver's seat. That's right where you want to be. That sounds perfect. I'm curious, did you or Kat have any inspiration behind the Imagen Insights name? Is there any like rhyme or reason as to why you chose that?
And was it Kat or you, Jay? I was going to say, knowing Kat.
I was not involved in the name at all. When Kat joined, so I started the business April 2019, then Kat joined November or later in that year, closer to December. And when she joined, the first thing she said, she's like, yo, I hate the name. She's like, because the name was called Div Inc. Terrible name, horrendous name. And she just joined in, and she was just like, what is this name? Why? You guys are laughing at me. She was like, what is this name? Could we change this? And I was like, no, we don't need to. And then we did some research with our community. And they were just like, yo, what is this name? So we promptly changed it literally within like a month or a half of her joining. We changed and did a whole rebrand and everything, which was, it was painful, but it needed to be done because she was definitely smarter than I am in that area.
Yeah. It's funny, but the digital voice, I was always called the voice, but originally I just when you set it up in company's house, it was Digital Trading Consultancy Limited. I mean, what the actual fuck? It led to the digital voice, which has so much meaning. And I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but luckily it was short-lived. So you live and you learn. I've got, obviously, apart from the number of people that you have at Imagen, how much has the business changed or adapted? Because you talk about the software, you talk about the platform and the technology, but has it changed? Has it adapted?
Yeah, 100%. So I think initially when we started, we were pretty much an agency. So we were an agency that was tech enabled. We had a lot of really great underlying tech that we built ourselves. It was all proprietary. But about So we built that technology 2020, 2021, and then going into 2022, 23, I could really feel that the market was changing, and really brands, and because we're predominantly direct to brand, they were realizing, hey, I just don't have the budgets or the time to keep briefing you for these research pieces that we're doing, and they just wanted to get access to tools. So we've got some amazing clients, Condé Nast and Amazon and Google, whatever, and they were like, I just don't have the time for it. I just can't brief you every single time I need you to do a piece of research. So they were defaulting to tools. So really, it was just sitting down and looking at going, okay, what needs to happen and what needs to change, and that pivot to a tool for us was extremely key.
Yeah.
For us, the key thing was going, okay, we need to pivot to the technology. And when I brought it to the team and I sat down with Kat and I was like, I think this is where we should go. This is what we should do. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. We should take like 4 or 5 months to build it. And I was like, well, we can't do that because I've already told customers that we've already got it. So we're going to have to build it within like 4 weeks. And everybody was like, what? And I was like, and Kat I do this to her all the time. I'm like, yeah, but I've already told customers that we're doing this. I've already told clients that we're doing this. And she's like, what are you doing? Why do you do this to us? And I was just like, no, I was like, yeah, of course we've got it. Yeah, that tool's ready. It's going to be ready in 3 weeks, 6 weeks. And literally, she's like, why are you telling me? But then because we do that, I was then able to go to my CTO and he was like, okay, I can get it built in 6 weeks. I was like, great, you've got 4.
Wow.
So then he built it and it was amazing. And now it's just really taken off for us. So I think it's been really key. So being able to make that pivot and having Kat and the team around to be able to go, actually, this is the direction I think we should go in and help with that it has been great.
See, where would any of us be without founders like you guys that are like, we're just going to do it.
It'll be fine.
We'll figure it out. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, nice. Well, Jay, before we pressed record on this, we were talking about notifications and like some good healthy boundaries that you've got for how you break up your day and the workload and everything. But I'm curious to know, what does a day in the life of Jay Richards look like?
Ooh.
Oh, good. Oh, I love these ones. All right. So I don't sleep with my phone in my bedroom. So I have an alarm clock in my room. Yeah. And that's just, I'm not going to lie to you. I think and I always make it sound, it's as good as it sounds. Just being able, I feel so less anxious not having my phone in my room. It's crazy.
That's so good.
So I have one of these Lumi alarm clocks so that it lights up half an hour before the alarm clock goes off. So it lights up for half an hour, which kind of like eases you awake. So I get up about 6 a.m. I head to the gym or to jiu-jitsu first thing in the morning. So I'll do those. Then I go sauna. And then I normally go sit in a park for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow.
Just in silence. So I don't take my phone. I kind of just walk to the park, sit down 10 or 15 minutes, sit in silence, relax. And then I get started in the day. So normally just, we work 10 till 4, which is beautiful. So start probably about 9:30, go through. I'm normally back to back in meetings most of the day, or calls or speaking or whatever it may be. Do that, finish, and I try and finish dead on 4 most days, unless I'm on the calls with the US. Finish dead on 4, and then whatever I want to do in the evening. Normally hanging out with friends, going for dinner, whatever it may be. But my day is pretty much identical every single day. So if
that sounds like a beautiful day to be identical and have every day.
Okay. But if somebody wanted to kill me, it'd be very, very easy because I'd just be like, it's the same day in, day out. You could just find me like I'm too routine. But for me, it's what works because I have a tendency just to, if I don't have a routine, I'm just off.
Yeah, so I feel like that as well. Need a bit of structure.
I have a very exact routine, and I find I just would get absolutely thrown. I'm terrible. I find to follow it to the letter, get up at the same time. And I also love the fact I've always known you've had that flexible working and that respect to life-work balance. So I've got so much respect for you and Kat for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've got a question because I know when I framed this session and it was getting under the hood of Gen Z. Now I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm wrong on this. Jay, you're not Gen Z yourself, are you?
No.
Good, just checking. But I have fucked that up before. How hard do you find it to be relatable to the very audience that you are? That your business is baked around.
Really good question. And I think the good thing for me is so my son's 17. So firstly, and so I'm 34. So we are almost basically almost close enough in a generation so I have that there for sure. But I think definitely for me, the main thing is I just love staying relevant in general. So I'm constantly, I have my own TikTok where I show my own outfits or whatever. And that just keeps me engaged with what's going on out there. And I think it's because I'm constantly on TikTok posting content, engaging in comments and just seeing what trends are and so on and so on. So because I'm so immersed in that culture in general, it's just a great way of staying in touch. But then also outside of just social media, On the weekends, I play football every single Saturday. I go to jiu-jitsu and do all these things where actually most of it's with Gen Z. So I'm playing football with Gen Z.
Staying active.
I'm training, but I'm doing these things with them. So I'm around them, taking them, hanging out with them for lunches with my other friends. And you get to hear what they're talking about, engaging in what they're talking about. And I think because I immerse myself in it, you then just hear things by happen chance. It's not like maybe I should go talk to some Gen Z. It's just a part of my day-to-day life.
I love that.
So because it is that, for them, it's like, we're happy to talk to him because I played football with him for the last hour or whatever it may be. So it's less of a, tell me about yourselves, kids. It's more of a,
that would probably be what I'd do.
Exactly.
Yeah. You sound like me, Jay, because I come at it where I label myself as a zillennial, where I'm not like a full-blown millennial, but I have like the TikTok brain rot like a Gen Zer, where it like comes out of my mouth like word vomit and stuff like that. So I've labeled myself to try to make myself feel younger as a millennial.
I love that, Kasey. You're in your own bracket. You do you.
I am in my own bracket. But I am curious to know, as a millennial, has there been any point where you think Gen Z voices of your panelists have gotten it wrong? Which do you go with when it comes down to it? Your gut instinct or what the Gen Zers are saying, even if you think they're a little bit wrong?
Yeah, I think it's a blend of both. I think specifically in our spaces, like marketing, advertising, that kind of space, people love to say, like, I just went with my gut. The team internally, we just went with our gut. And we're just like, our gut. And it just sounds sexy. It's like, we're all like Steve Jobs. And we're just like, I just build what people, they don't know what they want until I tell them what they want, all that kind of crap. And I'm like, that sounds cool and it sounds sexy. But I think that having the beautiful balance between having the data there and then also having that to inform what you're thinking about is great. And I think it won't always marry up, and it has happened in the past where I've heard community members say something, okay, but I don't agree. But everything, the big thing is that Gen Z aren't a monolith. No generation is a monolith. So there's so much nuance amongst a generation. And I think it's going that one Gen Z's experience might be completely different to another. So what is something personal and this is what they believe and this is their existence in society, that actually might be right for them. But I think it's taking all the other data points that I have, mixing that in with that, and then making an informed decision on that. The challenge with most folk is we make decisions without being informed, but I like to get as much data as possible from our community, from folks that I talk to, so that when I say something, it's informed by that wider thought process as well as my thoughts as well.
I think it's not a bad thing. We're always saying, show me the data, listen to the data, let it be your guide. Now, thinking about it, not necessarily if Gen Z is getting it wrong, but on the opposite side, are brands still getting it wrong when they're targeting Gen Z? And are they actually really listening to what Gen Z consumers want?
Yeah, I think so. Short answer is yes.
Okay.
The interesting thing is say, for example, I'm having a party at my house. And like, everybody come over, it's in Stratford, you're like, it's a vibe, it's a beautiful apartment, we get to overlook city, what a vibe. Jay's an amazing guy, I love his apartment. And then I lock the door. So imagine everybody's in the house and then I lock the door. You're like, this is kind of creepy.
This is weird.
Exactly, this is getting odd. I turn off the music, I pull out a megaphone, and then I just scream at you for like 45 minutes straight and just tell you about what's been going on in my life and what I'm doing with me.
That's so distressing.
Yeah, you'd be like, Jay's a psychopath, I'm never coming over again.
Yeah.
But if we're being honest, that's how most brands still use socials. It's like, follow us. Follow us. People follow, follow us. And then when they stop following, it's just them talking about themselves, constant on every single post. There's no engagement. It's just, this is what we're doing. Here's a great ad that we did with our agency.
Shop for this.
Exactly. We want a can line for this. It's just constant. And it's really, really overwhelming. But that's still how most brands use socials. It's a party that we're inviting you to, and then we're going to scream at you with our megaphone. And I think the key thing is that with Gen Z, actually with most generations now, we want a conversation with brands. We want to be engaging on socials. We want it to be, okay, talk to us about what we are looking for from your brand. You could do that in the comments. You don't need to use tools like ours to do that. They can do that within their comments. They can do that in various different ways in the DMs. They can have conversations with their consumers and actually see what their consumers want and then put stuff out. And when they're engaging back, engage with it and just being a normal human being, but from a brand perspective. And I think the quicker brands do that, the brands that do it win well. So say, for example, the Duolingos of the world, the Ryanairs of the world, where they make it seem
humanizing your brand.
You're just a normal human being, but I just happen to be a social media manager. and you're actually going to get great content because of that.
Ryanair's a great example.
I think that's right. Shout less, listen more, and keep that conversation going. Really fair.
100%.
You did kind of just talk about this a little bit. The most common mistakes brands are still making. Is there any brands specifically you would want to call out, Jay, on like things that have gone wrong?
So do I want a job? Casey's like, Jay, do you want to?
Yeah, when we said off record, we kind of meant it.
Is there any brands that aren't doing it well?
Or anyone apart from Ryanair that's really getting it right, if we just want to say nice things?
Yeah, you can. I think there's that as well. It's the right and the wrong, and it's both of those. We kind of want to know both.
Yeah.
You know what? I can talk about the spaces that are doing it wrong. So there's a lot of brands in like the snacking space where they're just all over the place. They know that Gen Z is their target consumer, but they're literally just screaming at them with the biggest megaphone in the worst party you could ever imagine. For a lot of brands, they are once the insight team finds some data, they find a great insight, they pass it over to the marketing team or to the social media team, whatever it may be, and there's just this disconnection. And maybe it's because the data is not being explained properly, or maybe it's just being, whatever it may be, there is a disconnection, and that is clearly seen in the socials that are coming out. And I think it's actually a big challenge, and I think brands are still struggling to do it well. But I'm hoping tools like ours and other tools that are out there can help change it over the next 5 to 10 years.
So if that's on the side of what's not really working, are there elements that you could call out and go, if you want a successful campaign, this is the makeup, this is the ingredient, these are the elements that are needed. According to Jay, what the fuck are they?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just do your research. Before you do anything at all, just whether it's a tool like ours or via your comments or via your DMs, just ask people, hey, we're thinking of doing da-da-da-da-da. What do you think?
Ask first.
Then just shut up and listen. Just be quiet and listen. Don't just let them talk, let them rant, let them tell you what they think. And then once they've done that, you take all of that data and then you try and find one strand amongst that data. And you sit down and you go, okay, here's the one thing that we think is important. You pull that out and then you take back to the smart brains internally and go, okay, here is the data point. Here is the one thing that we think is key from what we've seen. How can we build something around this? And then you build something around this. And then before you go live, you test it. Again, you go back to these folks and go, hey, you said this. We found this insight. Here is what we're thinking of launching. You send that out. They go, yeah, perfect. Sounds great. Or actually, here are some things you can change. And then you just go live with it. And then you do research again. Hey, we went live with it. Is this what you expected? Is this what you thought? Because sometimes between post-production and actually going live, it can be completely different. So it's actually making sure that you've done those different steps. And you can do that without using tools like ours. Obviously, tools like ours make that much easier, but you can do that without that. You can do that directly with your consumers. And I think if you do that and do that well, do research at the 3 different points and then listen to it and build something that is actually making sense from that perspective, then you're onto a winner.
Boom. Love it.
Simple. I am curious to know, as our final question before we head into the loved, feared, quick fire round, for any brands that are listening right now, what is one thing that is out for Gen Z and should be left behind for the rest of 2024?
So earlier you asked me and you were like, how do you stay in touch with Gen Z and how do you stay connected and so on and so on? And I gave some examples. And what's happening at the moment is, like, say, for example, Gap launched an amazing advert, like I think it was a couple of months ago, and it was phenomenal. It was Jungle was the song, and it was just an amazing advert. And everybody people were like, which Gen Z intern came up with this? And when you actually deep dive into it, actually it was a whole bunch of millennials that actually came up with the idea, came up with the concept, but they did their research when they were doing it. And I think this whole there's some Gen Z in the team and they're the one that's like, no, actually there's some really cool millennials that are actually doing stuff. And I think we need to stop doing this thing where the older generation don't know what they're doing and we have to only listen to the younger generation. There is a beautiful blend that you can find between getting that data, getting that understanding, but then matching your expertise and your experience with it. And I think there's not only Gen Z know what they're doing or only old people know what they're doing. Actually, everybody can know what they're doing. And I think it's a humility to go, actually, I might be right or I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong and tell me how I can improve. But if I am right, then tell me how I can make it better. And I think that's one thing I would say.
So I'm really proud that on the Digital Voice, our age ranges from 22 to 61. And everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
Jay, you know it's time. It's now. We can hold off no longer. It's time for your quickfire round. Are you ready?
Let's do it. I'm down. Let's go.
Woo!
Here we go. Jay Richards, who is your style icon?
George Clooney.
Oh, good choice from me and from Kasey. On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool do you think you are in the eyes of Gen Z?
8.5, easily. 8.5, without a doubt.
I knew you were going to say
That's a
that.
solid score. Love that.
Kasey, how cool do you think you are in the eyes of Gen Z?
An 11.
I'm a 2 because I think TikTok and Snap is insanity. I was trying to think of a polite word. Jay, back to you. What's your favorite music genre? I think that's even old-fashioned to say it that way.
Classical, and my favorite composer is Ludovico Einaudi.
Oh, is it? I used to play the cello, and so I'm a massive fan of classical music. I love it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Sorry, I didn't know that.
I love it. It's the most beautiful instrument ever. It's just
That's
stunning. I'm going
amazing.
to pick it up again when I retire. That's my plan.
Yes.
Did you always want to run your own company, and why, Jay? I know we started at the start about why you set it up, but did you always want to run your own company?
Yes, this is like my 9th business. All the other 8 failed. I've always wanted to run my own company, and why? Because I always watched my mum starting businesses when I was younger. It always just inspired me. She came to the country with nothing and just continued to build. So yeah, for sure.
And we're grateful and pleased that you have done. What's the toughest thing about being a founder?
Going easy on yourself at times, because I'm very, very harsh. I'm my worst critic without a shadow of a doubt.
I think that's fair for any founder. A curveball one. You're obviously co-founder with Kat. Who annoys the other one more? And what's your worst habit? What would Kat say is your worst habit?
I definitely annoy Kat way more than she annoys me. And my worst habit is I say things, agree to things, and do things that she's just like, wait, when did we decide we were doing this? And then we just play catch up. But she's very graceful and lets me just crack on and move mad. And it normally works out like 70% of the time.
So, well, I was going to go 80-20 rule. As long as that's the rule I follow by. What's the best thing about both Imagen Insights and being your own boss, etc.?
I think the best thing is that we get to provide the insight and the data that companies need, that clients need, within a period of time that they've never been able to get before. And I absolutely love doing that. And I love my place in building this. And I love just getting to talk to people and have fun and just do what I feel like I've been designed to do.
Amazing.
Do you know what? Every time I see you, Jay, you've always got a smile on your face. You're one of the happiest people I know in the industry. Please carry on being there. 2 more questions. As a Gen Xer, any plans to have a fringe company for people like me?
So actually, we're not even going to have a fringe company. All age demographics are going to be within the Imagen Index tool. So we're going to have the entire.
Love it.
So we're going to be building millennials, Gen X, boomers, the whole.
Zillennials will be in there too. I think I heard. They'll be perfect.
Party of one, Kasey.
Everybody will be in there. Literally, be like, what does Kasey think? But we're going to go from Gen Alpha all the way through. So yeah, definitely it's coming over the next 12 months.
I think it's perfect. And your parting advice to other would-be founders, what is it?
Surround yourself with great counsel, because a lot of the decisions I made because I was unsure, or I didn't know, and I wasn't able to admit myself I didn't know what I was doing at times. And I think I've now got people around me that are much smarter than I am. And when I go to make a decision, I go to them ask first.
I love that. Thank you so much. That is the quick fire round, and that is our session and our podcast and our episode over. And there's such a big takeaway. There's so many I could pick apart there, Jay. But the biggest one is for brands and for anybody who is looking at marketing to Gen Zers, and in fact, marketing to anybody. It is listen. It is don't talk at, listen to, and actually understand and take both the data and their voices and be able to use that to make really compelling messages and marketing campaigns. And surround yourself with good people, be that whether it's on your team and your founders or the market you address. So I absolutely loved it. Love that session. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jay. That is a wrap on this episode. But as always, there is much more to the conversation to be discovered. Be sure to check out our website, thedigitalvoice.co.uk, for heaps of resources to help you out. And of course, check out Imagen Insights at imageninsights.com. Thank you so much again, Jay. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Off Record On Point. Join us again next time for another confession from an industry game changer. Until then, I'm Julia Linehan.
And I'm Kasey Long. Enjoyed the conversation? Reach out and let us know by rating and reviewing on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to follow to never miss an episode.
You can always stay connected with us at thedigitalvoice.co.uk and across all our social platforms. Just look out for The Digital Voice.
Join us again next time for another undercover industry deep dive. All off record, all on point.